Hey, everyone. There's been a dramatic update in the Ron DeSantis versus Florida TV station running pro Amendment 4 ads. If you watch my previous video, the judge called the Florida attorneys and DeSantis administration stupid for not understanding the First Amendment in sending a letter to a TV station threatening criminal charges if they don't remove an advertisement in favor of the amendment for the abortion amendment that would re-legalize abortion in Florida, where it's now banned after 6 weeks. The dramatic thing that's happened is that one of the defendants, John Wilson, the Florida Department of Health General Counsel, he's the one who signed the letters and sent them to the stations. Well, he has now resigned and flipped and is now a whistleblower for the plaintiffs, Floridians Protecting Freedom. According to this article, as well as some court filings on the docket, he approached the plaintiffs and offered to flip sides, offered to write a declaration explaining what his involvement was. And I guess in return, or as part of the deal, or just because he's cooperating now, they have voluntarily dismissed him from the case. So Floridians Protecting Freedom have voluntarily dismissed all claims against defendant John Wilson, and they attached this exhibit, an affidavit of John Wilson. He says he's of sound mind and fully competent. He's an attorney licensed in Florida, and he served as general counsel for the Florida Department of Health from March 2022 until October 10th, 2024. On October 3rd, in his official capacity, he sent the letters. He says he received drafts of the letters directly from Sam Elliott, Assistant General Counsel for the Executive Office of the Governor, earlier that day. So he did not draft these himself, but he did send them. He says he did not draft the letters or participate in any discussions about the letters prior to October 3rd. Then Ryan Newman, General Counsel for the Executive Office of the Governor, so that's Ron DeSantis's office, and Jed Doty, Deputy General Counsel for the Executive Office of the Governor, also Ron DeSantis' administration. Ryan Newman and Jed Doty directed him to send the letters under his name on behalf of the Florida Department of Health. And when he was later asked to send more letters, he resigned on October 10th from his position as general counsel in lieu of complying with further directives to send correspondence to other media outlets. Prior to his resignation, he was directed by Mr. Newman to execute contracts for new outside counsel to be retained by the department to assist with the enforcement proceedings pursuant to the October 3rd letters. And according to this Slate article, those new contracts will cost the Florida public $1.4 million to defend this obviously unconstitutional action. The Miami Herald reports on Mr. Wilson's resignation letter where he says, "A man is nothing without his conscience. It has become clear in recent days that I cannot join you on the road that lies before this agency." He declined to comment further other than saying, "I wish that it were not the case that he has to leave, but I take great comfort in knowing that the lawyers I leave behind will rise to the occasion and provide you with zealous representation you deserve." It's kind of the nice way of saying, I need to leave because of my conscience, but I'm not going to, put you all on blast before I go. I'm going to try to leave in, a nice way, so maybe I can get back in your good graces in the future. Or maybe he just doesn't want further trouble from the DeSantis administration, who seems very predatory, very willing to violate the U.S. Constitution, and I'm assuming the Florida Constitution, in order to get what they want by hook or by crook. So the plaintiffs in the case then, the Floridians Protecting Freedom, finished their voluntary dismissal by saying, in light of the affidavit of the former Florida Department of Health General Counsel John Wilson, which explains the circumstances in which Mr. Wilson was directed to sign his name, plaintiff has determined it is unnecessary to pursue individual capacity claims against defendant Wilson. So he's dismissed insofar as he was the general counsel for the Florida Department of Health and sued in his individual capacity, I guess, for the arguably constitution-violating, maybe not qualified immunity, maybe not even absolute immunity, if you are using your position in government for something not government related, like advocating for the amendment you want personally to pass or not pass, using criminal law in an unconstitutional way, at some point this crosses the line and immunity might not apply. So it is really important that people who are advocating for unconstitutional things get out as quickly as possible. Really, they shouldn't be advocating for violations of the First Amendment in the first place. And don't forget the implications of Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 11, that by signing a paper, now this is in the context of a court paper, but this, who knows, you might be able to reach through this as well, or through the court's inherent powers, that by signing a paper, it is not being presented for any improper purpose, such as to harass or cause unnecessary delay or increase the cost of litigation. Again, Rule 11 might not apply since the letter was not sent in the context of a federal court case, but still, the attorney signed his name to a document that was later presented for an improper purpose, such as to harass. So we are walking right up to the line of sanctionable conduct, if not over the line of sanctionable or conduct that is otherwise reachable by some kind of ethical and professionalism law or regulation. The implications of this affidavit are huge. The affidavit will tie this effort from what looked like it was the general counsel of the Florida Department of Health. Now it will tie it directly to the DeSantis administration, perhaps even to Governor DeSantis himself. And that should mean that his administration will suffer further consequences, probably harsher consequences than just being called stupid by a district court judge for an obvious violation of the First Amendment. Remember, the counter to false speech, if you believe someone has made misinformation in their speech, most of the time, without more, that doesn't cross any First Amendment lines. Currently, there is no punishment for, without more, just spreading misinformation. Now, the misinformation itself can be false enough that it can either create a duty or create a damage or a harm or an injury that could be legally cognizable. Yes. But as far as the First Amendment is concerned, the government can't stop people from spreading misinformation until, I don't know, we have some kind of an update to the Brandenburg line, exactly what speech would be considered illegal. There's already speech that's illegal, that is not protected by the First Amendment. So speech that incites imminent lawless action, crossing the Brandenburg line, that would be not covered by freedom of speech. Speech that describes how you're going to commit a criminal act. So you don't have a right to privacy and you don't have a First Amendment right to use free speech to commit a criminal act. That's generally speaking not covered by the First Amendment, although again, it needs kind of to reach a high bar before it crosses that line. So maybe there is some recognition somewhere for limitations on spreading misinformation. But the trouble when you try to adjudicate is that someone has to be in charge of deciding what speech is permissible and what speech is not. And currently, I don't see a political environment where really either side or anyone in the middle or anyone at all trusts anyone else to be the arbiter of that determination of whether it's a free speech violation to spread misinformation. I definitely see that society needs to overcome this trouble, or else we're going to tear ourselves apart. But in this case, with this declaration, it's obvious to me that the action came from higher up. The action was clearly unconstitutional, and really it's just going to kind of be fun/sad to watch this all play out in Florida District Court. So that's Floridians Protecting Freedom versus Joseph Ladapo and No Longer versus John Wilson. Let me know what you think in the comments below.